Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of AM1 on CAM1. For this episode, I have something a little bit different, something a little new for the vlog. Instead of reviewing an entire course, I'm going to review one hole. Yup, a big honkin' video for just one hole. We recently made a significant change to hole 3 at Borderland. We built a brand new T-pad location well behind the original one. Let's check it out. Borderlands course has been in place for close to 2 decades, and it's the oldest course in the area. We've made tweaks to it over the years, but this is the first completely new tee box since I started playing like 8 years ago. So I figure an introduction is in order. While I'm at it, I hope to answer some common questions like, why did we build this? Why did we grow that tree right in the middle? How does it play? And are we finished with it? Just in case you've never played this hole or it's been a really long time and you can't remember which hole is hole 3, let us review. Hole 3 is a par 4, but at 425 feet long, it is a very weak par 4. The signature element of the hole is the basket placement, which is atop a rock ledge. That position causes some challenging uphill putts and the nerve-wracking potential for rollaways. It's arguably the best green on the course. The shot off the tee is another story. I took this photo standing on the end of the original tee box. The fairway leading down the right side is the most direct line to the green, which is tucked out of sight. Actually, let me pull up that tee sign here again. Looking at this sign, follow that line up the right side and around a dense copse of trees. Now you can go around those trees either to the left or the right, but they protect the green very well. Now the end result is a hole that sits squarely on the cusp of a par 3 and a par 4 in terms of distance. However, the green is positioned in such a way that you can't really reach it from the tee. Yes, even for a 950 rated player. The choices are to leave it as a really easy par 4 or make it a par 3 that will almost never get birdied. That brings us to the question of why we changed the tee box. There are a couple of reasons, and while fixing the par issue is one of them, it's not really the big one. First of all, change is good. It keeps the course feeling fresh. Second, it shortens the walk between holes 2 and 3, which is quite a ways. And finally, it actually solves a problem with the original T-pad because we often experience springtime flooding there. Enough talk. Here it is. Pardon my shaky cam. This is the new tee box. I think I took this footage before I'd even removed the closed for remodeling sign that I had on there. That's how new this is. It may be difficult to see, but this photo shows the fairway looking right over the original tee pad. Hold on, I'll see if I can do a side-by-side comparison. Yeah, here we go. This is the old tee shot on the left and the new one on the right. This is what it looks like standing on the old pad and looking back at the new pad. My rangefinder tells me this is exactly 100 feet between them. Here, let me zoom in on that just a bit here. Yeah, that's better. Now, the day that we built this, the crew took turns throwing off of the new pad just before we put on the finishing touches. I will roll that beautiful footage right now. Please keep in mind, we were all very sore from working all day, and none of us did any warm-up throws or anything like that. In fact, it took several attempts before any of us hit a proper line. I threw an ace trace graphic on the best of them so that you can see the line. Yeah, Ben, there you go. That's not too shabby. Now, clearly, we are all terrified by that tree in the middle of the fairway. But here's finally a good one, and I put the ace trace on it to make it easier to follow. Okay, that's enough of the rough stuff. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda. Specifically, I want to introduce you to the trees and then show you what it's like to throw drives around them. First, let me just walk out there and get out to that first tree. This is a very controversial tree, and it might be removed later, but it has to stay here for now. When I'm talking about my drives, I'm going to refer to this as tree number 1. Yep, there she is. Another 150 feet up the fairway is going to be tree number 2. Come on, Kyle, get out there. So this one that I'm approaching right now, in a distance, that is tree number 2. When myself and others looked at this fairway, we figured the right-hand backhand lane would be to the left of tree number 1 with a shot that turns over and glides past tree number 2, headed up the right side of the fairway. Right-hand forehanders will probably take the gap to the right of tree number 1. I want to give you a feel for what it's like to drive off this new pad. So I'm going to toss a bunch of discs and you can see what happens. These were my first 5 throws. There were several failures as, once again, I wasn't fully warmed up. In fact, of these first 5 drives, I think only 2 got out of the initial tunnel. Trust me, things get better as I warm up. Oh, and that shirt that I'm wearing, that's a Zach Benson original. You may know Zach as the maximum effort leader of the 8 holes at Maple Hill. He was also on the card with me when I first reviewed Franklin Falls Dam. I believe he called me a giraffe during that episode. Anyway, Zach has launched his own disc clothing line called Prismatic Gear, loud clothing for loud people. And that's a loud tree kick. Funny, when I was planning the exact position of this tee pad, Shane Wyatt warned me about that tree, and I said, no, nobody's ever going to hit that. Well, you were right, Shane. Part of the problem here is that with many of these throws, I'm trying to force the ante line up the left-hand side. I'm not pulling through straight, and I'm kind of throwing like I'm terrified. Oops, wait, we got people coming through here. All right, well. Good. We'll just hurry them along. Okay, there we go. Traffic's gone. All right, so again, the problem is I'm not pulling through straight, and I'm throwing like I am terrified of that number 1 tree. I finally stopped being terrified, and I got a rip straight out there, got out of the tunnel. So that you have a better idea of what I'm doing, I want to talk a little bit about the discs I'm throwing and why I'm throwing these particular discs. From left to right, let's start with that yellow thing. This is a beat-up Latitude 64 Saint Pro. In my hands, this is a very understable control driver. This is what I throw off of hole 2 blue, for example, if I want to turn all the way up the fairway toward the white basket. It turns hard and it glides far. Next up is another Latitude disc. It's a Gold Line Flow. These are no longer in production. You can't get them, sorry. Mine is very beat up and it turns over easily, but not as hard as the Saint Pro. It's not like a roller disc. It's a fast disc and it will come out of the turn eventually. The purple disc is a new one to me. This is a Discraft Scorch. So far, I love these. They fly just like the old Flow. They have different numbers, but they've got plenty of glide, and this copy isn't nearly as beat up as my old Flow. So it flies like a brand new one. And for me, that's a nice, long, S-shaped flight. In case it wasn't obvious, we're getting progressively more stable as we move down the line. The orange disc next to the purple Scorch is another Gold Line Flow, but this particular copy of the Flow just refuses to beat in. It is the most stable Flow I have ever thrown. It will stand up flat and ride for about 280 feet before it slowly fades out. And the white disc at the far right is my Destroyer. And this is a disc that is simply too fast for my arm. I use it when I need to drive straight ahead and then dump hard to the left. I'll be throwing these in the same order each time, so you'll see the same discs over and over again. The understable ones I'll be throwing up the left side gap, hoping to turn those over and maximize their glide for distance. The stable ones I'm going to throw on the right-hand side gap. And those I want to have pump forward as straight as I possibly can without hitting the trees on the right side, and then fade out and into the hill toward the left. So this is my Saint Pro, which I send kind of low. I turn it over and I hit tree number 2 there. This is the second set of 5 throws that I made with the discs that I brought out with me for the day. So next up is that red flow. Very beat in, but I'm afraid of turning it too much after that.
Shot at making the line.
Yeah, that is probably the best disc for this hole, but I was afraid of hitting the tree again and pulled it too far wide. Scorch. Failed to turn it at all, sent it straight into the tree. Now we'll speed things up a little bit here. Oh, and that is perfection. I doink it right off of the tree next to me again, and it goes all the way out into the middle of the fairway. Kind of a short drive, but I was out there. So I would take that in a casual round. That'd be fine. All right, last disc is the Destroyer. I'm going to try for the right-hand lane here. And I pump it out straight, but as the Destroyer does, it fades too soon and skips up the hill, as though it were headed to the white basket, for those of you who know the course.
Nice job. They're all the same.
Getting a level in this area here, though, is probably difficult.
So I had a visitor playthrough. This is Mark. Mark has helped me build many of these tee
I would
pads.
take that.
Yeah, you would take that. He crushes this one.
I would take that every day if I could do that.
That's a beauty.
Plus now I gotta get it.
I was going to say, now you're going to need that disc for your next throw.
I will.
Yeah, I invited him to give it a test drive, and thank goodness for that. He shows us a proper throw. Okay, so this is my third set of throws with those very same discs, and again, always in the same order. You'll get to see the good throws and the bad.
Do one of those.
Yep, there's the tree. While you watch this, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the hole and answer some of the questions that I have been asked. The original hole design called for leaving tree number 1 out of the picture. It was supposed to be removed. However, it's too tall for our park supervisor to cut without possibly getting it hung up or maybe damaging nearby trees. To remove it, we'll have to call in the state arborist, and that means paperwork. Also, that tree is very important to the erosion of the hill that leads up to the white tee, so we thought it best to just leave it here for a while and see how things play out. For what it's worth, I actually ended up hitting tree number 2 more often than I hit tree number 1, but tree number 1 is definitely the more punishing kick. People have also asked what's going to happen to the original tee pad. Well, that's also going to stay. Officially, the blue layout will be played from the new pad, but if you're playing casual rounds, we're not going to stop you from using the old one. It's there as an option. Okay, here goes one last round with those 5 discs. Now, because of the dappled lighting on this hole, it can be difficult to follow the flight of the disc. So I'm going to plot approximate landing points on this mock-up of a hole map that I created. So you'll see right here, this is where that yellow X is where my Saint Pro landed. Okay, back to the common concerns that have been brought up. One of those is the impact on the blue to white layout. The new blue pad is, to the white basket, is now 425 feet long, with a good portion of it going uphill. And to make matters worse, the tree canopy forms a relatively low ceiling. We'll decide how to rank it later, but my expectation is that it'll play like a true par 4. We'll have to collect some data during tournaments to be sure. Okay, I also want to take a second and talk about the rough. Getting out of the tunnel on this hole is critical. You've seen a few of my drives start too far outside or fail to turn in the gap, and they end up in the woods on the left-hand side. That is not a happy place. I've already trimmed a few branches over there, but we may remove some of the dead trees and some of the saplings to create scramble lanes off of that slope. I don't think we want a situation where all you can do is pitch out. That would be sad. there should be a few risk-reward lines you can try for to maybe save par. Okay, at this point I'll play the entire hole so that you can get an idea of what it's like to play it from these drives rather than just watch me practice them. Based on my warm-ups today, I went with my Saint Pro for a safe drive. Right there, it just clips that tree. But with this disc, I can take a little bit off and focus on hitting the line rather than getting maximum distance. Still, that wasn't a terrible kick. I threw again as player 2. This time I chose my beat-up flow, and that's the disc I was expecting to use on this hole when we first set it up. I missed that second tree, and I hoped I got further out there in the fairway. This is me walking up the fairway looking for that yellow Saint Pro. Players who know the course will probably recognize some of these rocks and trees. Those triple trees on the right are well known to players who throw turnover shots off the old pad. Player 1's disc is right behind those. I mentioned at the start of the video that there are two ways to approach the green. There's a left route, which is very common, and a route to the right. I'll put a little drive map up on here so that you guys can see what I call the high road and the low road to the green. I've added routes for both of those. The X on here, of course, marks where my lie is. Because of where that first drive landed, player 1 is going to have to attempt that right-hand lane, what I call the low road. Now, I hit the shot, but I think I landed on a rock or something, so it rolled all the way back to circle 2. It actually took me a while to find my second drive. Like the first throw, this one finished pretty far to the right, and I was hiding behind that rock I'm standing next to. I'm about 40 feet farther up the fairway compared with my other drive. A player with a better forehand could get up and down around the left route, but I'm forced to go to the right for the second time. Thankfully, this one settles. It's on the slope, and I've got a putt. Before I teed off, I had hoped to play at least one of my shots around the left-hand side so you could get a look at that, but it didn't really make sense with either of the drives that I got. So, if you're familiar with the course, most times people play that side of the fairway anyway. You probably know what it looks like after having kicked a few trees. It's that kind of a shot. Okay, back to player 1. I'm well outside the circle with a long look. At first, I was thinking I'd just lay it up, but at the very last second, I decided to run it. And that is a terrible run. Luckily, I didn't roll away a second time. Player 2 has a much better look at the basket. This is maybe 15 to 18 foot, a tester putt. The only tricky part is the awkward approach angle into the chains. Sometimes these spit right back at you. But I got it, and that's a birdie. Player 1 cleans up for an easy par. All said and done, I think that this new hole is going to play an awful lot like holes 16 and 18 on the blue layout. Both of those shots require a good, clean drive. 16 has that long tunnel, and 18 has a choke point. If you don't make it past those things, then you're looking at a bogey. It's the same thing here. And isn't that how the game is supposed to be played? If you like visuals, I think this breakup of the map may help. I've broken the hole up into 4 landing zones for your drive. If you land right off the tee, you can expect a bogey because of that tunnel effect that is caused by the old and the new tee pads. If you land short, perhaps after grazing a tree, you might be looking for a scramble to par. Meanwhile, full flight in the right direction gets you the birdie look. Personally, I think that this new tee box adds a nice competitive upgrade to the hole, which is not a bad thing given the relative ease of hole 4 now that we lost the 2 guardian trees there. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Just please, do us all the courtesy of at least playing the hole before you make up your mind. Okay, that's all for this episode, folks. Stay frothy, my friends.